Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talk English Today, the podcast that helps you become a confident and fluent English speaker. I'm Alex, and I'm so happy you're here with us today. And of course, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Arya. How are you, Arya?
Hi, Alex. I'm doing great, and I'm really excited for today's episode. Hello to all our amazing listeners. No matter where you are in your English learning journey, we're here to support you every step of the way.
That's right. Today, we have a really exciting topic: how to train your mind to think in English all day. Have you ever felt stuck because you keep translating from your native language before speaking in English? It can slow you down and make conversations more difficult.
Exactly. But don't worry. In this episode, we'll show you simple and practical ways to train your brain to think in English naturally. This will help you speak faster, more fluently, and with more confidence.
So grab a notebook if you'd like to take notes, relax, and let's dive into today's lesson. Many English learners struggle with speaking fluently because they translate every word from their native language into English before they speak. Have you ever experienced this? You want to say something, but first you think of the sentence in your own language. Then you try to find the English words for it. Then you put the sentence together in your head. And finally you say it out loud. That takes a lot of time, right?
Yes, exactly. And because it takes so long, you might feel nervous or lose confidence. Sometimes, by the time you finish translating, the conversation has already moved on. This can make speaking English feel stressful. But what if you could skip that whole translation process and just think in English from the beginning?
That would make everything so much easier. When you think directly in English, you don't have to stop and translate. Your words come out faster, your sentences sound more natural, and you feel more confident in conversations. Thinking in English is one of the biggest steps toward fluency.
And not only that, but when you stop translating, you also make fewer mistakes. Sometimes when we translate from our native language, we use sentence structures that don't really work in English. This can lead to small mistakes in grammar or word choice. But when you train your brain to think in English, your sentences will sound more natural and correct.
That's a really good point. So, thinking in English helps you in three big ways. First, you can speak faster because you don't have to translate. Second, your sentences sound more natural. And third, you make fewer grammar mistakes. But I know what our listeners are thinking. This sounds great, but how do I actually do it? How do we stop translating and start thinking in English?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We have some simple, practical tips that will help you train your brain to think in English all day long. These are things that you can start doing today, no matter where you are or what your level is.
So stay with us. In the next segment, we'll share our first powerful technique to help you start thinking in English right now. Let's get started.
Now that we understand why thinking in English is so important, let's talk about how to actually do it. Changing the way your brain works takes practice, but don't worry. We have some simple and fun steps to help you.
Yes. And remember, this is a process. You won't suddenly start thinking in English overnight, but if you practice these steps every day, you will see progress. The key is to be patient and keep going.
Let's start with step 1. Begin with simple words. This is an easy way to train your brain. Look around you and name things in English. For example, if you see a table, don't think of the word in your native language first. Just think table in English. If you see a chair, think chair. If you see a tree, think tree. The more you do this, the more natural it will feel.
Yes. You don't need to make long sentences at first. Just train your brain to recognize objects in English. Imagine you're a small child learning a language for the first time. A child doesn't translate. They just learn words naturally. You can do the same.
Exactly. Now let's move to step 2. Describe what you're doing in English. This means thinking about your actions in English even for simple things. For example, instead of thinking, voy a la cocina in Spanish, think, I am going to the kitchen. Instead of thinking, je vais dormir in French, think, I am going to sleep. This helps your brain connect actions to English naturally.
That's such a great way to practice, and you can do this with anything. If you are brushing your teeth, think, I am brushing my teeth. If you are making tea, think, I am making tea. Even if you are sitting and doing nothing, you can think, I am relaxing. It might feel strange at first, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yes. And this takes us to step 3. Use short sentences. Instead of just thinking one word like apple, try to say something more, like, this apple is red. Instead of just thinking car, say, that car is fast. When you add small details, your brain gets used to thinking in full English sentences.
That's a really good habit to build. And you don't need to use difficult words or complicated grammar, just simple, natural sentences. The goal is to get comfortable thinking in English without stopping to translate in your head.
Right. Now let's talk about step 4, practice with labels. This is a fun and easy way to learn new words. Write the English name on objects in your house. For example, put a note on your mirror that says mirror, a note on your door that says door, or a note on your refrigerator that says refrigerator. Every time you see these words, your brain connects them to the objects and you remember them faster.
I love this method. It's a simple trick, but it works really well. You can even write short sentences. For example, on your mirror, you can write, I look in the mirror every morning. On your door, you can write, I open the door when I leave the house. This way, you're not just learning words, you're learning how to use them in sentences.
Yes. And finally, step 5. Use an English-only rule for certain times of the day. This is a powerful technique. Choose a time, maybe when you wake up, while cooking, or when going for a walk, and decide that during this time, you will only think in English. Start with 5 minutes, then slowly increase the time as you get more comfortable.
This is one of my favorite tips. It really trains your brain. You can even try speaking to yourself in English. If you are making breakfast, you can say, I am making eggs and toast for breakfast. If you are getting ready for work, you can say, I need to leave the house in 10 minutes. The more you do this, the more natural it will feel.
And don't worry if you make mistakes in your thoughts. Nobody is listening. The goal is just to get used to thinking in English as much as possible. Over time, your brain will start to do it automatically.
So, let's do a quick review. Step 1. Name objects in English. Step 2. Describe your actions in English. Step 3. Use short sentences. Step 4. Label objects in your house. Step 5. Set an English-only time during your day. These steps will help you train your brain and build fluency.
Yes, and remember, practice is the key. The more you train your brain to think in English, the easier it will be to speak without translating. Keep going, and soon, thinking in English will feel completely natural.
Now that we've talked about why thinking in English is important and how to start training your brain, let's make it even more fun. Learning English doesn't have to feel like hard work. You can use simple exercises every day to practice thinking in English in a way that feels natural and enjoyable.
That's right. And the best part is, you don't need a teacher, a book, or even another person to do these exercises. You can do them by yourself, anywhere, anytime. The more you practice, the easier it will be to think in English without translating.
Okay, let's start with the first exercise. Mirror talk. This one is really simple but super effective. Just stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself in English. Start with easy sentences like, Good morning. Today is Tuesday. I feel happy. Or, I am getting ready for work. I have a big day ahead. If you're a little shy about speaking in English, this is a great way to practice because no one is listening, just you.
I love mirror talk. It's like having a conversation with yourself. And if you don't know what to say, you can describe what you see in the mirror. For example, I am wearing a blue shirt today. My hair looks nice. I am smiling because I feel good. This helps you practice describing things naturally in English.
That's a great tip. Okay, let's move on to the next exercise. Storytelling with pictures. This is a really fun one. Just take a picture, any picture, and make up a short story about it in English. It could be a photo in a magazine, a picture on the internet, or even a photo on your phone. For example, if you see a picture of a cat, you can say, "This is Max. He loves to sleep all day, but when he wakes up, he runs around the house looking for food."
That's such a fun exercise, and you don't have to make a complicated story. Just a few sentences are enough. If you see a picture of a family at the park, you can say, "This is a happy family. They are playing with a ball. The weather is sunny and nice." The goal is to think in English and describe what you see.
Yes, and if you want to challenge yourself, try adding more details. Instead of just saying, "This is a dog," you can say, "This is a big brown dog. He looks friendly. He is playing with a stick in the park." The more details you add, the better your English will get.
Great advice. Now let's talk about the next exercise, the 5-minute challenge. This one is really powerful. Set a timer for 5 minutes and talk in English non-stop about anything. You can talk about your plans for the day, your dreams, or what you see around you. The goal is to keep speaking and not stop.
This exercise is so helpful. At first, it might feel difficult and you might not know what to say, but don't worry, just keep going. If you run out of ideas, describe your surroundings. For example, I am sitting in my room. There is a desk in front of me. The window is open, and I can hear birds outside. The important thing is to keep talking and training your brain to think in English.
Yes, and don't worry about making mistakes. No one is grading you. The more you practice, the better you will get. And over time, you will start thinking in English more naturally and easily.
That's so true. Okay, let's move on to our last exercise, the word association game. This is a simple but fun way to build your vocabulary and think in English faster. Start with one word and then think of related words. For example, if you start with beach, you can think of sand, waves, ocean, sun, vacation, and so on. The goal is to keep going as fast as you can without translating in your head.
I love this game, and you can do it anywhere. If you're waiting for a bus, you can start with bus and think of words like driver, ticket, passengers, and station. If you're in the kitchen, you can start with food and think of bread, butter, knife, and plate. This exercise helps you think in English without stopping.
Yes. And you can also make it more fun by setting a challenge for yourself. For example, try to think of 10 words in 1 minute, or pick a letter, like B, and think of as many words as you can that start with B, like banana, ball, book, bed, and so on. The faster you do this, the better your brain will get at thinking in English.
That's such a great idea. So let's do a quick review. The 4 exercises we talked about are mirror talk, storytelling with pictures, the 5-minute challenge, and the word association game. These are all simple, fun, and effective ways to train your brain to think in English every day.
Exactly. And the best part is, you don't need a partner or a teacher to do them. You can practice anytime, anywhere. So, try these exercises today and you'll see a big improvement in how quickly and naturally you think in English. So, we've talked about why thinking in English is important, how to train your brain, and some fun exercises to help. But let's be honest, learning something new isn't always easy. Sometimes we face challenges that slow us down or make us feel stuck. But don't worry, if you know how to deal with these challenges, you can keep improving and reach your goal faster.
That's right. One common problem that many English learners face is this: I keep going back to my native language. Maybe you start thinking in English for a little while, but then suddenly you realize you're translating again in your head, and that's completely normal.
Yes, it's normal because your brain is used to your native language. Think about it. Your whole life, you have been thinking in that language, so of course it takes time to change. But the important thing is to catch yourself when you start translating and switch back to English as soon as possible. Don't get frustrated. Just gently remind yourself, no, I will think in English. The more you do this, the easier it gets.
Exactly. And here's a tip. If you catch yourself thinking in your native language, don't stop and feel bad. Instead, try to say the same thought again in English. Even if it's not perfect, that's okay. For example, if you think voy a la tienda in Spanish, quickly say in your mind, I am going to the store. This small action will help train your brain over time.
That's such a great tip. Now, another big challenge is the fear of making mistakes. A lot of people feel nervous about thinking or speaking in English because they don't want to be wrong. But here's something important to remember. Nobody is listening inside your head. It's just you. So if you make a mistake while thinking in English, who cares? No one will hear it.
Yes! And even when you speak, most people won't care if you make mistakes. The important thing is that you are trying. Think about children. They make a lot of mistakes when learning their first language, but they don't stop. They just keep going, and eventually they get better. That's what you need to do too.
That's so true. Another challenge is expecting to think in English 100% from day one. That's not realistic. No one can change their thinking overnight. It's like going to the gym. You don't get strong muscles after one workout. It takes time. The same goes for your brain. You have to train it little by little, and soon you'll see progress.
Exactly. So don't feel bad if you still think in your native language sometimes. Even if you think in English for just a few minutes a day, that's a win. Start small and build up. Today it might be 5 minutes, next week maybe 10 minutes. One day you'll realize you are thinking in English without even trying.
That's such great advice. So, let's quickly review. The common challenges are, you keep going back to your native language. Just catch yourself and switch back to English. You are afraid of making mistakes. Remember, no one is listening inside your head, and mistakes help you learn. You expect to think in English perfectly from day one. Be patient and take it step by step.
That's right. If you keep practicing and don't give up, thinking in English will get easier and more natural. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep going, and you will see great progress. Thinking in English all day might feel difficult at first, but I want you to remember something. Every new skill feels hard in the beginning. Do you remember the first time you tried to ride a bike? Or the first time you tried to swim? It probably felt strange, maybe even impossible. But with time, practice, and patience, you got better. And one day it just felt natural. That's exactly how thinking in English works.
That's such a great point. When you start training your brain to think in English, it might feel slow. You might struggle to find words, and your brain might want to switch back to your native language. But just like Arya said, it's like learning to ride a bike. At first, you need to focus on balancing, pedaling, and steering. But with practice, you don't even think about it anymore. You just ride. The same thing happens with English. One day, you'll just think in English without even trying.
Yes, and the best part is that fluency isn't about perfection, it's about progress. If today you can think in English for 5 minutes, that's amazing. If tomorrow you can do 10 minutes, that's progress. Even if you make mistakes, that's okay. Mistakes are proof that you're learning and growing. Every small step counts.
Absolutely. I think a lot of learners feel frustrated because they want to think in English all the time, right away. But let's be realistic. No one becomes fluent in one day. Even native speakers spent years learning their first language as kids. So don't expect perfection. Instead, focus on small wins. Celebrate the moments when you realize, hey, I just thought in English without translating. That's a big achievement.
And don't forget to enjoy the process. Learning a language isn't just about reaching a goal, it's about enjoying the journey. Have fun with it. Play word games, talk to yourself in English, write down funny thoughts in your journal, whatever makes the process enjoyable for you.
I love that. And another thing, never compare your progress to someone else's. Everyone learns at their own speed. Some people might think in English faster, and others might take more time. And that's okay. The only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Are you better than yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you're doing great.
Yes, and remember, there are so many people just like you working hard to improve their English. You are not alone on this journey. There are millions of English learners around the world who share the same struggles and the same dreams. And guess what? Every fluent English speaker today was once a beginner. If they can do it, so can you.
That's such a powerful reminder. So, to everyone listening, keep practicing, keep thinking in English, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to keep going. You've got this.
And that's it for today's episode. We really hope these tips and encouragement help you start thinking in English all day long. Remember, it's all about practice, patience, and having fun.
Before we go, we'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite way to practice thinking in English? Do you use any of the exercises we mentioned today, or do you have your own method? Let us know in the comments. Ciao.
And don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Talk English Today so you never miss a new lesson. We're here every week with practical tips, fun conversations, and motivation to help you on your English journey.
And if you found this helpful, share it with a friend who's learning English too. Learning together makes the journey even more fun.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember, you are making progress every single day.
We believe in you. Keep going, and we'll see you in the next episode of Talk English Today. Bye for now.